It's hot, people. It is hot. The heat wave is back. And I thought, you know what? Let's have a conversation, man. Let's have a quick conversation. Guys, do you care? Do you care how long signings stay at your football club? Like, I really want to know. Do people really sit there and say, yeah, man, and I want you to really understand the question that I'm asking, right? All I've been hearing recently is, yeah, if we sign such and such, any club, by the way, this is for all clubs around football world, right? All I hear is, yeah, you know what? If we sign insert position, centre back, if we sign this right winger, if we sign this striker, if we sign this midfielder, he's going to be with us for the next 10 years. Do you care? Is this something that people actually care about? Like, I'm actually genuinely wondering, by the way, like, I really want to know, do people actually care about this kind of stuff? Like, you really sit there and you're planning for the next 10 years. Guys, we don't even know what's going to happen next season. You don't even know what's going to happen next week. You don't even know what you're going to eat for breakfast tomorrow. But we're worrying about, yeah, well, I hope this signing, you know what I mean? This secures us for the next 10 years. No, it doesn't. People, I'm telling you, football manager settings. That's all it ever actually seems like, is that. And listen, I love a football manager. Everybody knows I love football manager. It is my favorite football game of all time. Do you get me? There's no game that I feel is better football-wise in terms of the gameplay, in terms of what you can do, the mechanics, the fun, the journeys, and all these kind of various different things, right? There's no football game better than Football Manager. So listen, I'm a lover of it, just like some of you are, right? I'm just trying to understand. It seems like we're all trying to play Football Manager, but in real life, but technically we're not really doing it because we're not in charge of any football clubs, right? So you'll see people, for example, they'll sit there and say, yeah, you know what, we're going to get in this 2-star player, right? 2-star player might be, I don't know, 18, 19, 20, whatever. 2-star player, and he's going to be a 5-star player in 3 years. Like, somehow we can all see the stars of said players, right? I don't know how, but for some weird reason, it's like we can all see the stars of the player, like you can on Football Manager. Now, for those who play it, for those who don't play it, when you play Football Manager, right? Obviously, every player's got a star rating, so that's their current ability, and then they've got their potential ability. So obviously, it can range between no stars, and then I think it goes to like grayed out stars, usually for like young players coming through, like the academy and stuff like that. So they might have like a grayed out or white out star, and then they've obviously got their potential ability. Now, over the period of the seasons, that always obviously changes. Now, it depends on how good the player is. Do you play that player a lot? Have they been injured? You know, are they performing? All these kind of various different things, right? So every player obviously has that, and you can see that on the game itself. But it feels like everybody, from what I'm seeing online and stuff like that, right? And listen, online, you got to take it with a pinch of salt. But it feels like people can really see these stars, like they're really believing the things that they say. So I see people talking about so many different players, by the way, so many different players that I'm seeing, Buwadi as an example, really, really good player. You know what I mean? Like a really, really good young player. You can see he's got loads of talent. And you can see that, okay, with a bit more development, whether that's at Lille, whether that is he moved somewhere and he can continue playing. He's been playing obviously for Morocco. He's been okay during this World Cup. I think he's only really had like one outstanding game, and then since then it's been kind of underwhelming. But listen, he's young, still got time to develop. He's still got more. Hopefully, if Morocco can keep qualifying for tournaments, he can develop, blah, blah, blah. It's as if people can see that he's a 5-star rated potential player, right? Again, I want to know where you guys can see these stars, right? Because I don't really understand. But listen, it is what it is. But it seems like people can see these stars and they're like, you've got to get him in. Listen, he's only 2-star now, as an example, maybe even a 3-star player now. But I'm going to say he's like a 2-star kind of player at this moment in time, if I'm talking Football Manager terms. But it's like everyone knows he's a 5-star potential. Yeah, 100%. Yan Diamonde, he's a 3-star player right now, but he's a 5-star potential. You got to get him in now. Mateus Fernandez, who else is even out there? Even the ones like a Tonali, someone obviously who's a little bit older and stuff like that. I'm seeing it with just so many different players, and it just seems like we're all sitting there playing real life or trying to play real life football manager. And I'm just like, I don't care about the next 10 years. Like the next 10 years isn't where my brain, and I don't feel like as a fan of any club, you should be thinking about the next 10 years. Now, it comes in cycles, it comes in waves. I don't think Liverpool are even going to have the same manager in 10 years. I don't think Arsenal are going to even have the same manager. Like, I don't feel like that's going to happen. Obviously, if it does, then clearly that manager's doing something, great and blah, 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 and all these kind of various different things. Usually, if a manager's staying that long, they're probably going to be somewhat successful during their period of time, right? Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, you know what I mean? These are guys who won trophies throughout their kind of tenure at their football or their last football clubs, right? So in that kind of sense, yeah, it would make sense. But I'm just trying to wonder, like, do you care? Like, is it something that you really care about that much? Like, that you really are bothered? Yeah, well, we're signing him on a 5-year. And by the way, I'm not saying that I'm not trying to say that, and hopefully I'm trying to articulate myself properly, right? I'm not saying that you don't want the player, right? I'm not saying that you wouldn't want said player to stay for a set amount of years, so to speak, right? But I'll take, for example, we use Liverpool, obviously. I'll take like Salah as an example, right? Van Dijk, Alisson, all these kind of guys, Henderson, Fabinho, whoever else you want to kind of throw in there, Joe Gomez, right? People are so concerned with keeping these guys until past their sell-by date. But then the same people who complain about it are the same people who want that to happen, are the same people who then complain when a club like Liverpool don't then sign anybody new to kind of, would I say, somewhat replace them. When the reality is, and listen, we're not in charge of who we buy, sell, and all that kind of stuff. I'm just more thinking about the mentality and the thoughts that come out of people's mouths, right? You want to keep this guy, you want to keep Van Dijk until his legs fall off. Now, I'm not saying you sell Van Dijk. It's not even about that. But I don't want him here for the next 5 years. Like, I mean, after this season, I'm good with Van Dijk leaving. I couldn't really care less. I'll just move on. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's not that deep. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, it really isn't that deep in my brain. Like, I don't know. Like, for some people, I guess it is. And listen, Van Dijk, still a top quality centre back, and I get all of that kind of stuff. But then don't complain when there is no one else to kind of replace him. And then by the time it is time to replace him, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Case in point, Mohamed Salah. Fans were like, yeah, got to stay. I said, when he had that season, when Liverpool won the league under Arne Slot, I said, this is the last you'll see of Mo Salah. You ain't going to see a better one. I promise you're not going to see a better one. Now, hindsight, listen, it is what it is. I get it. Blah, blah, blah. I also understand as to why they kept him and giving him a new deal and yada, yada. I get all of that. But the club in itself, now this is where obviously you start looking at the club. The club itself, you didn't, there was no contingency plan. There was nothing put in place for when he was to retire, or let's say retire, but to leave Liverpool. There was nothing in place to even say, you know what, forget what even happened last season in terms of him not playing that well, the team playing really rubbish and all that kind of stuff. Forget even that. Do we have anything else? Is there anything else in the pipeline? Did you think that maybe just some random Elise was just going to become available for you? Like, I didn't know what that thought process even really looked like for Liverpool. Hence the reason why now they are caught. Right now, Liverpool are absolutely fucked when it comes to that right wing. Because yes, you can say you're replacing the Mo Salah of the most recent season, which is factually correct. I get all of that. But you're also trying to replace your main attacker. Now, obviously, they've got in Alexander Isak, they've got in Hugo Ekitike, obviously he's injured. So you could say potentially they've done that just in a different way, just not in that kind of position. But as we've kind of seen, do you know what I mean? Like, well, obviously Isak's been injured, so fair enough. Hopefully this season he's going to perform a lot better. But Ekitike is injured. Is he really a bagsman like that? Nah, not really. Do you get what I'm saying? He's one of those kind of thing. Now, again, I'm not saying you're going to get a like-for-like replacement, and I'm not actually even asking for that. I'm just saying you could have had a better contingency plan because you've already got your strikers. We just needed a right winger or a couple of right wingers as an example. You could have had someone already in place. You could have been already thinking about that plan. It seems like had last season not happened, let's say Liverpool don't win the league, but they, finish in a second or third, and it's a better season just in terms of how it actually feels, in terms of the season itself. And Mo Salah decides, yeah, you know what, I am gonna leave and blah blah blah. You know, it's all gonna be amicable. He doesn't come out, do his interview, and all these kind of various different things, right? Like in my mind, I'm sitting there thinking, so what did you think was gonna happen? Like that genuinely, like it's like you're trying to play, or the owners, or I say the owners, but the Richard Hughes and the Michael Edwards, whoever is kind of in charge of that, it's like you're trying to play Football Manager real life. Like really, like you've really sat there and said, yeah, nah, Mo Salah's still a 4-star player, or technically still a 5-star player, so it's calm. Yeah, he's performed badly and his ratings are like 6.79, so it's okay. We'll kind of wait it out, and you know he's never going to be benched anyway. He doesn't really get injured and all that kind of stuff, and it's all right because we can just throw someone in that kind of position. Now you're talking about Rio might potentially be the right winger next season. It's just so all over the gaff, and that's kind of my point. Is just why does it seem like everybody cares about this kind of 10-year thing? Like, are your owners even going to be here in 10 years? Like, we never even really know when it comes to these kind of things. Like, why is our minds already thinking past that? Forget the next 10 years. I'm more focused on the next 2, at most 2. Like, and if any player, by the way, I don't care who it is, whether it's Kylian Mbappe, Erling Haaland, Harry Kane, you give me 3 good years. After that, it's just bonus after that point. Because let's keep it a buck, people. Most players, and let's take out Messi and Ronaldo because they're just freaks of nature. Not many players. I'm trying to think. If you think about all the top players that you've ever seen, not many, and I mean like through all the generations that you've been watching football, not many of them have more than 3 like ultra uber seasons, like where you're just like, oh my god. What usually happens is they have about 3, and the other one, the other one is the ones before it are usually the lead up to that 3. So you're like, okay, cool. You get like 2 years of lead up, 3 years of just amazing, just out of this world kind of quality, and then after, so now we've what reached. So you get 2 years, 3, so that's 5 years, right? After that 5-year period, it's then usually just some people can maintain a level. It's not going to be of the level that we saw during that 3-year period, aka Ronaldinho or aka Kaká, but it's somewhat of a level kind of thing. Luka Modric, where you had a 3-year period where I was like, oh my lord, like this guy is legendary. And then I don't want to use the word like you dropped, but you know what I mean? It's not of the peak level that we obviously see, and that's absolutely fine. But you see that 3-year period, that was good enough. That was good enough. But I feel like everybody's like, yeah, the next 10 years. And but by the time this player even gets to whenever that 3-year period peak, like starts to come in, he's already been in for like 5-6 years anyway. Then he might have a 3. And by the way, I'm talking about the elite players having that 3-year period. Most of the other players ain't gonna have that. When I say ain't gonna have that, I guess every player is gonna have a peak. I mean, in terms of the elite kind of players, right? It's only going to be a minute amount of players who are going to have that kind of level in them anyway. So the other guys, it's just like, yeah, they'll reach like a level, like a James Milner, like a Henderson, like you'll reach those kind of levels, but obviously those levels are not peak. Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, Zidane, Modric. They're not of those. Toni Kroos. They're not of those kind of levels. And again, Kevin De Bruyne that's absolutely fine, but no one's looking at those kind of guys and it's like, yeah, the next 10 years we're sorted, blah, 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 because you always need to have those kind of contingency plans because anything can kind of happen. So that's why I'm always baffled when people do this kind of, yeah, you know what, he's a 2-star ability kind of thing now. Yeah, but then he's a 5-star. So let's just wait until we kind of get there. What about winning now? What about, obviously this is for top clubs. I'm not talking about every club because obviously contextually, there are some clubs, obviously, it just doesn't really work like that, and that's absolutely fine. I'm more talking about the bigger clubs, the ones who believe that they are the biggest clubs out there, the ones who believe, you know, that they can win things ASAP. The Bayern Munichs, PSGs, the Arsenals, the Man Cities, the Liverpools, Real Madrid's, Barcelona's, all the, you know, those kind of teams. They're not looking at it from that kind of perspective. Now, again, I'm not talking about every single player on the entire team. Some players will just stay because it just works and stuff like that and blah, blah, blah. But then those are almost, I find, those kind of situations are usually just, it works. Do you know what I mean? Like it works. You feel me? Like, it's like, oh, it works. So let's just kind of run with it. Why change a winning formula, so to speak, especially if a team is, you know, somewhat successful. You know, who would have thought that Gini Wijnaldum, Fabinho, Henderson, James Milner, that kind of midfield quartet was going to be as good as it was? I never would have thought that. Never in a million years would have thought that. But guess what? It worked. So you don't even want a different, well, you want a different type of midfielder, but you don't need a different type of midfielder. You don't need to necessarily upgrade, so to speak. What you did need was a contingency plan. What you did need was okay, we're getting to the last couple of years, a bit like what Manchester City did with, and I always refer back to this, Rodri, Fernandinho. Fernandinho's still there at the football club, obviously in his last year or two. Guess what? Rodri was there. Rodri not really playing. People had some question marks about him. Is he? Was he? Blah, blah, blah. Guess what? He comes in. Phil Foden. Yes, I know Foden's kind of been a little bit whatever, but let's just say prior to that, when Bernardo Silva, David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, he was there during that kind of era, learning, developing. Guess what? When those guys got a little bit older, when Foden had that kind of player of the year form, or he had that player of the season type of season, you know, when he won that award, guess what? It's because I've been there, I've learned, I've come through, I've played the games, I've done this, and here is now the contingency plan. Yes, he's fallen off and blah, 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 and all these kind of various different things, but it was there. There's a plan in place. Nico Gonzalez now at Manchester City. I know everyone think, yeah, Man City, they spend all this money, Reinders and all these. Yeah, okay, cool. But guess what? Some of those players, Bernardo Silva's gone. Rodri, getting a bit older. You need those contingency plans. Now they've got an Elliot Anderson. Again, there's just constant contingency plans, you know, kind of put in place, right? Because you never really know what's going to happen in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you know, kind of thing. So when people are trying to play this real life football manager, it doesn't always work out. Sometimes a player that you thought was a 5-star potential, bro, if you play football manager, there's enough players that you've probably seen 5-star potential, they barely touch 3 stars. And you're sitting there thinking, rah, this guy was literally 3 years ago, he was like a 5-star potential. Now he's literally a 3-star potential. Might be a solid 3-star, but it's just a 3-star potential. And that's why I'm always like, do you care how long these signings even stay? I personally don't, but I would love to know what people in the comment section actually think. Like, in terms of just where your head is at when you're thinking about, like, when you sign a player, like, what are your, I wouldn't say expectations, more just like, what are you thinking about this said player? Are you thinking like, yeah, this guy, the next 10 years, we're sorted kind of thing? Or are you just thinking, for some players, again, young players, obviously, it's a little bit different. But in terms of like players who are not so young and stuff like that, players who are deemed to be, would I say, quote unquote, ready right now, are you looking at them thinking, yo, this is a now thing? Or are you genuinely sitting here? Because that was kind of the kind of, would I say, message that Arne Slot kept putting out in regards to like Florian Wirtz, Alexander Isak and stuff like that. We didn't sign him for now. We signed him for the next. No. You signed him for now. You needed a return on investment ASAP. This wasn't obviously you may get that return on investment, but again, nothing is actually ever promised. You have no idea what's going to happen in the future. With players like that, you need that return on investment ASAP. Otherwise, that return on investment that you may obviously possibly get, and obviously there's a chance that you could, but that return on investment that you think you're going to get in the future has to almost be tenfold now. Has to be more than what you would have been happy with now. Did you get what I'm trying to say? Because of the fact that it's gone to shit so quickly, you know, kind of thing. Now it has to be out of this world. It can't even just be average. It can't even just be okay. It can't even just be good. It has to be out of this world, unfortunately, because of how much you've obviously spent on these kind of players. So, yeah, man, let me know your thoughts in the comment section, people. I'd love to know what people think in regards to all of this. Do you care how long signings stay? Let me know your thoughts. Keep the same energy. Stay blessed. Enjoy the hot weather this weekend. Come on, Norway. Peace.